Members, it is the appointed time for the meeting and we have a quorum. Thank you for attending the meeting of the PWSC. Now we can invite the administration team to come in. In the session 2016-17, we have approved 9 items up to and including the last meeting, totaling a fund of $21.0181 billion. Together with the 7 papers for the meeting on the 20th of May, there are 10 papers on the agenda today. If all these are approved, we would be approving $61.626 billion. And if all the items are approved in this session, and the total number of items will be 19, and the total funding will be $82.6407 billion, discounting the $2.8684 billion for land resumption and computerization block grant. The project fund would total $79.7723 billion. I'd like to remind members here, if you have direct or indirect pecuniary interests relating to the items for discussion today, please act according to ROP 83A and disclose the nature of that kind of interest before you speak. I also draw your attention to ROP 84, which stipulates how members should vote when there is a pecuniary interest. PWSC 2017-18 Paper 2, members are invited to upgrade remaining part of 272RS. I don't think we need an introduction on the paper because we have already spent 12 hours of discussion on the paper. Attending for this item, we have officials and the consultant. I don't think I need to introduce them to members because you have the name list in front of you. At the last meeting, we have already started to process whether we should deal with motions put forward by members under Para 32A. Members have already considered 17 of those proposals. A point of order? A point of order, members? Dr. K.K. Kwok, a point of order. Tabled today, we have a new paper which is issued after the last meeting, dated the 29th of May. There is new information in the paper. I'd like the administration to introduce the paper. This may have a bearing on the vote to be taken, and it is only right for them to introduce the paper since it's a new one. I think I can accept this request by Dr. K.K. Kwok, and I will ask the administration to take us through the paper briefly. Well, the paper is with members, and then we'll continue to deal with the motions to be moved under Para 32A. We have given consideration to 17 32A motions moved without prior notice, and we have decided not to deal with them, and there are still a dozen or so with us today. Many of them have been put forward after the last meeting. We are going to vote to see whether we will deal with them. Now I will give the time to the administration to walk us through the paper briefly. P.S. Thank you, Chairman. Actually, this is a paper to respond to members' specific proposals made at the last meeting. With regard to 1 ABCD, well, Mr. Edward Lau put forward 4 proposals, and we are giving specific answers here. With regard to the bid incentive, some members said that we should go for the traditional tendering process first. Only when we fail should we go for a bid incentive. But as we said in Para 5 of the paper, actually, if we do that, no interested tenderer will come forward in the first round because they know there will be a second round where there will be a bid incentive. And this will also jack up the tender price appreciably. Therefore, we are not going to give consideration to that, and we are going to stick to the bid incentive approach. As for B, C, and D, which is about the guarantee deposit and also the capping of the funding. We have told members that we are going to give further consideration to that, and we are actually very confident that if there are enough bids and also enough competition, we'll be able to complete the project within the sum of $31.9 billion. And members are proposing that there should be 3 years of basic operation. But we will have to look at how we can increase the default cost for the tenderer. But at the same time, we will have to make the tendering process attractive enough. We will have to work further with our consultant in order to come up with a calculation mode for the information of members. And that is why in the paper we say there will be a specific reply before the FC meeting. As for items 2 and 3, item 2 proposed by Mr. Eddie Chu that DBO and DBG should be reconsidered. One is design, building, and operating, and also design, building, and operation by government. And he has asked for a difference between the two, and we have included a comparison at the appendix. And in brief, if it is to be operated by government, we may not have the professional knowledge, and we are going to follow government procurement rules. So we will not be able to operate the park, its commercial elements, and also the major venue facilities in a flexible manner. In the first and second years, we can expect some deficit, and in the first year it will be $52 million. And then only in the third year are we going to see a surplus, and in 2025 the difference will be very big. And we have also included further information. Actually, the task force will be monitoring the project, and it will continue to give us advice. This is my introduction to the paper, please. We are now going to continue dealing with motions proposed without notice under para 32A of the Rules of Procedure. Dr. K.K. Kwok's motion. You'd like to claim a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Dr. K.K. Kwok, you can choose to read out your motion. In accordance with para 32A of the procedures for PWSC, I move that the administration must stipulate and decide on a clear appraisal and penalty system for item 272 RS to make sure that the tenderer who will succeed in the project bid will indeed implement and develop all the elements of the sports park so that the sports sector can make use of this platform. Members, please proceed to vote. Before I declare the results, would members please check your votes. Mr. Tommy Chung, don't have to hurry. I will give you enough time. Don't splash your coffee. Voting is closed now, and the results are displayed. 26 present, 10 for, 15 against, no abstention. Motion is negatived. Before we go into the next motion, I'd like to ask members. Well, I think there will not be any more 32A motions coming forward. I believe we can complete dealing with all the 32A motions. 022, Dr. K.K. Kwok, I claim a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. In accordance with paragraph 32A of the procedures of PWSC, I move that the administration must make a mechanism for item 272 RS to make sure that the tenderer will take on board the views of the sports sector. Members, please proceed to vote and please check your votes. Voting is closed and the results are displayed. 27 present, 11 for, 15 against, no abstention. The motion is negatived. In other words, it will not be processed. Next, 023 by Dr. Fernando Chung. He claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. In accordance with para 32A of the procedures for PWSC, I move that all the facilities at the sports park should benefit all residents, including the disabled. The administration should require the contractor to implement all the proposals and recommendations in the consultant report on use of sports facilities by the disabled. And there should also be a monitoring mechanism. Members, please proceed to vote and please check your votes before I declare the results. Voting is closed. Results are displayed. 27 present, 11 for, 15 against, no abstention. The motion is negatived. In other words, there will not be any further processing of this motion. Next, by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, you claim a division, right? The bell will ring for 1 minute. According to para 32A of the procedures for the PWSC, I move that since there will be DBO approach to be adopted for the sports park, many members are afraid that there will be the winning of the bid by a subsidiary of mainland property agents, and therefore the park will become a property development project. We urge the administration not to enter into any contract for residential development with the winning tenderer, so as to make sure that there will be no property development at Kai Tak Sports Park. Please proceed to vote. Members, please check your votes. Voting is closed and the results are displayed. 28 present, 12 for, 15 against, no abstention. The vote is in the negative and this motion will not be further processed. 025 by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Since members of the public object or actually have different views about whether we should have the sports park, and in fact many members of the public are against the idea, and some people in the sector also say that there will be the excuse for the administration to take back certain sports facilities after the park is built. We ask that the administration should delay the building of the park for 1 year and conduct further consultation, and there should be an opinion poll conducted by a university, and only when you get 90% support should you proceed with the project. Members, please proceed to vote and please check the votes you have cast. Voting is closed and the results are displayed. 29 present, 12 for, 16 against, no abstention. The proposal is negatived. Next, 026 by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. He claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. I move that since members of the public living in Kowloon have a keen demand for gymnasium facilities, we ask that the contractor winning the bid after DBO for the sports park should consider providing a large-scale gymnasium in the sports park with all the attending equipment in order to satisfy the needs of Kowloon residents.
I'm going to
put the motion to vote. Before I declare the motion, please check vote. Voting is closed. Result displayed. 30 present, 13 for, 16 against, no abstention. The voting is negatived. Next item, next motion by Ms. Lau Xiaolai, 027. Can you give me a second to prepare for that? My apologies, Mr. Chairman. It has been put on the screen. You can read it out if you prefer. According to ROP 32A of the PWSC, I move that in view of the administration in 2015 indicated to this council that the cost is $25 billion, but the present cost is more than $30 billion. The committee asked the administration to study the possibility of cutting the cost to less than $25 billion to make sure the public fund is well spent. I now put the question to the vote. Please check your vote. Voting is closed. 31 present, 14 for, 16 against, no abstention. The motion is negatived. Next item. The next motion is proposed by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong 028. Mr. Leung, 1 minute. I move that the administration must provide information from UK, US, Australia, the information, the operational information of a stadium of 50,000 seats or more to ensure that the operation of Kai Tak Sports Park is in line with international standard.
Mr.
Leung Kwok Hong, you just wants to wake you up. It's early in the morning. I'll put the question to the vote. Before I declare the voting is closed, please check your vote. Voting is closed. The result displayed. 31 present, 14 for, 16 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. And next motion also by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong 029. Thank you, Chairman. I move that the administration must, in the tender document, require the future operator to provide concessions to and priority to the elderly in using the facilities in the sports park. Now, the next motion. In fact, the screen is very clear now. Thank you.
現在進行表決。
Before I declare the voting is closed, please share your vote. Voting is closed. The result displayed. 32 present, 14 for, 17 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next motion is by Ms. Lau Xiaolai, 030. Also 1 minute. According to ROP 32A of the PWSC, I move that in view of the concept and major stadium are rather controversial, the committee urges the administration to consult the choice of location and mode of operation of the main stadium once again before planning the project. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting is closed, please check your vote. Voting is closed. The result displayed. 32 present, 14 for, 17 against, no abstention. The motion is negatived. The last motion, 031, Ms. Lau Xiaolai. Once again, 1 minute, please. According to ROP 32A of the PWSC, I move that in view of the large-scale activities will cause noise and light pollution, and the crowd may cause adverse impacts on the neighbors. We urge the administration to relocate the sports park far away from residential areas. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting closed, please share your vote. Voting is closed. Result displayed. 33 present, 15 for, 17 against, no abstention. And the motion is negatived. We have dealt with 32A motions. If members don't have other issues, I will put the proposals of the paper to the vote. That is, whether we support the proposals of the sports park funding. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Okay. The member claims a division, so we will have the division bell for 1 minute. Now, the motion is the final one, and that is whether we support the recommendations in PWSC 2017-18 number 2. And now the voting begins. Before I declare the voting is closed, please check your vote. You can still change your choice because the voting is not yet closed. Is it okay now? Okay, voting is closed. Result displayed. 36 present, 18 for, 17 against, no abstention. The motion is carried.
而家進入到下一個項目。
We now move on to the next item on the agenda. Do members ask for separate voting at the FC meeting in respect of this item? Yes, Mr. Chu Hoi-tek asked for such an arrangement. Next item on the agenda, item 2. Please invite the officials into the room. Agenda item number 2, 786 CL Tung New Town Extension Paper PWSC 2017-18 number 3. The paper proposes to upgrade part of 786 CL to Category A at an estimated cost of $20.5689 billion. In MOD terms, the administration consulted the development panel, and the report has been placed before members. To answer members' questions, we have the Deputy Secretary for Development, Mr. Thomas Chan, Mr. Lam Sai-hong, Director of Civil Engineering Development, Mr. Jensen Wong, Deputy Project Manager, Mr. David Low, Chief Engineer, and Ms. Donna Tam, District Planning Officer of the Planning Department. Would members ask questions, please? The first one, Dr. K.K. Kwok. Chairman, this is a large-scale reclamation. Many people are concerned about it. As for those who are waiting for public housing, this is a very important project. What is special is that the reclamation reclaim land for housing, and also for something which is rather strange. If you look at their preliminary plan, they are going to build luxury flats facing the harbor, facing the sea, and there will be a marina. There will be another yacht club over there. I don't understand why it's planned this way. People are waiting for public housing, and they may have to wait for 5 years. And by 2026, when the first batch of housing is made available, people will have to wait for 7 or 8 years. Why don't you expand the scale of public housing, whether it is PRH or HOS, while you still provide private housing here? And quite a large part is made up of commercial land, and Tung has no shortage of commercial land. On the artificial island, this will be a new commercial area for the airport. There is a lot of commercial space, commercial floor space, and also the artificial island for the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge. The administration also built the so-called bridgehead economy, and there will be a lot of commercial floor space. Why you add commercial floor space in Tung? The land should be for people to live. The planning, the DPO, Ms. Tam. Thank you, Chairman. As for the whole of Tung Chung New Town, we do the planning according to the study for the proposed land use. We provide different uses, including residential land and community facilities and commercial facilities. This is for the development of the new town in the future, and also for the future of Hong Kong.
As for Tung Chung East reclamation, We acted according to the study findings, and we also took on board the views of the public. Please do not recite your piece. When was the study done, and were people waiting for 4.7 years for PRH? Please do not beat about the bush. The study findings also took on board members' views. We like to have a balanced community in the Chung area, including public and private housing, community facilities, commercial activities, which will create in situ employment. So we have provided different land uses in the Chung development. At Chung East, we propose a new MTR station. The planning concept is to have high-density housing around the station, including public and private housing. There will also be commercial facilities around the MTR station, and they will create job opportunities for people in Chung. We also have some planning concepts, including a terraced kind of development. The building height will decrease towards the shoreline. Sorry, Chairman, I'm asking two questions. I asked, when you made your decision, were people waiting 4.7 years for PRH? When did you do your study and made your decision? The study started in 2012. At that time, how many years people were waiting for PRH? I think Ms. Tam has already answered your question. No, I asked for a figure. She did not give it. Our present proposal has followed the 6:4 ratio. 63% of the housing would be public housing, so we can have a balanced development for Chung. Mr. Holden Chow, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. The purpose of this project, as we said at the District Council, is to provide living space for the new population in Chung. As was said, the public-private housing ratio will be 6:4. The residents there said that we should make the best use of land there, and the 6:4 ratio was welcomed by residents in Chung. I think I need to state that clearly. My question here is transport. At the relevant panels and on different fora, I asked the same question, and today I'd like to see whether you can update me on the situation. At present, the Chung East Station, according to the MTR information earlier on, would be commissioned only in 2026, the earliest. But I know the Development Bureau is saying that the first batch of residents can move into the extension area in 2023. But if the MTR station will be available only in 2026 and people are going to live there in 2023, there will be a 3-year waiting period. And I can expect a lot of grievances. Can the administration now talk to us about your negotiations with MTR and the present timetable, so you can expedite the station so the first batch of residents can already have mass transport to meet their transport needs? Number 2, when we have 3RS, there will be at least 140,000 jobs created at the airport. As we always say at the district, we like to have same district employment. If you only rely on Chung Town Center and the airport, where we can only rely on buses, I'd like to ask you whether the Chung line can be extended to the airport island. I know the MTRCL is doing some studies, and apart from the Airport Express, there will be another choice for residents to go to the airport island, or you can provide a light rail, especially for people who go to work there. Any progress in these respects? CEDD? Mr. Jensen Wong. Thank you for the questions. According to the RDS 2014, there is an initial timetable. And in January 2017, the administration has invited the MTRCL to provide a proposal for the Tung Chung West Station and the Tung Chung Line extension. The MTRCL would need time to do the technical study. When we get their proposal, the TH Bureau and the Highways Department and other departments will do an assessment on the proposal. According to this established procedure, when we make a decision on Tung Chung West extension and the station, we will look at the cost, the proposed station locations, and the alignment, etc. We will then come up with a timetable for public consultation. Okay, just carry on. As for the airport authority, in 2016, it started its consultant study. The reserve capacity of the Tung Airport Express may be able to facilitate extension of the Tung Chung line. We have just received some initial views from the TH Bureau and we are studying them. We will do some follow-up. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lam Cheuk Ting, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. Let us take a look at this project. There will be an addition of 40,000 units and a population of about 120,000. When we have such a severe housing problem in Hong Kong, the public would like the administration to increase housing supply ASAP. Housing prices are ridiculous now. A few generations have to put their efforts together in order to buy 1 unit at an exorbitant price. Now let's ask you this question. If land is auctioned in the private market, very often it will be won by mainland consortia at very high prices. And local developers are saying that they are kept out of the door because the prices are too high. What is your attitude towards this? Do you want to continue to allow mainland consortia to speculate on land at very high premium because the resulting housing will be as expensive? Would you consider providing housing within a certain size at Tung Chung? In other words, would you put some restrictions on the tendering process? And also, planning-wise, you have reserved some space for the mooring of yachts or pleasure boats. Is it that we really lack space for pleasure boats, so that you want to earmark some shoreline space for them? Is it that we really lack such space? If we do not moor pleasure boats there, can we also use that for housing, and how many units can you provide? We want to see how public interest can be balanced. DS? Thank you, Chairman. At the Tung Chung East extension, the public-private housing ratio is 63 to 37%, and either will occupy about half of the housing land. We are seeking support for the reclamation works. From now to the completion of the extension project, there will still be a very long time, and we have included certain flexibility in the planning. If the housing policy or other planning factors should change in future, the public-private housing ratio and land use can still be changed. But at present, we are acting in accordance with the Tung New Town planning study, which has seen 3 rounds of public consultation. As for the pleasure boat mooring space, we said at the panel that this is a planning concept. We have reserved that space now, but we have heard different voices saying that other activities should be accommodated as well at the space, including waterborne activities and maybe other boating activities that the public can also use. According to the Marine Department statistics in recent years, there is a jump in the number of pleasure boats. How many mooring space or berths do we lack? Well, the sector is asking us to provide more berths. We'll continue to liaise with the Marine Department. Any figures? DS? We can supplement the figure after the meeting. Mr. Ben Chan, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. We talked about public-private housing ratio. We have talked about that for 4 years, but the members seems to know only today. I find it rather strange. Tung Chung extension has been the subject of reporting and discussion at every stage at the council here, and I think everything is quite clear. We should learn from the Tin Shui Wai experience when we extend Tung Chung Town. We think 6:4 is a good ratio because we need different types of housing. We have pilots, stewardess working on planes, and we also have workers. So we need different types of housing, and also we need sufficient commercial facilities. Or else people have to travel a long way to just buy some daily necessities or to go to work, and there will be a heavy burden on transport. And I believe we do need sufficient commercial space. As for the mooring space, as in fact there are non-Chinese people living in Tung Chung and they love to play waterborne activities, but they do not have mooring space. I think this is going to be a characteristic of the new town, and I hope that will be kept. Now, I'm a little concerned about parking spaces. As you know, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, the boundary crossing, and also the extension of the airport, all that combined would mean that there would be a lot of economic activities in Tung Chung. Those who live in Mui Wo will drive to Tung Chung. If there are not enough parking spaces in Tung Chung to take care of the expected economic activities, and you only rely on the Hong Kong PSG, which by and large are quite outdated, I think there will be a serious problem that's going to result in Tung Chung. I therefore hope you can give me an answer on parking spaces. And then transport. We used to have Chung Route P1 on Lan Tao, linking up Tung Chung with Sunny Bay. Are you going to embark on it? And then reclamation. You are going to use a non-dredge method. This will be the second time we have used it. The first one at the artificial island, and after reclamation we saw that there was some shifting of the island. Again, you are going to adopt this methodology. Is it mature? Will there be the collapse of seawalls and also shifting of the reclaimed land after reclamation? You don't have to dredge sludge, but please leave them some time to answer. Would you have a good way to prevent positive shifting? Mr. Chen, can I defer to CEDD, Mr. Lam Sai Hong, Director? Thank you. 3 questions. 1, parking spaces. In the new extension area, there will be 10,000 more parking spaces. As for Chung Route P1, the route will go from Chung East to Silho 1.
呢一段嘅 P1 公路
This stretch of P1 is within the scope of works of our project. As for this non-stretched approach, which is the concern of the member, this is not the first time. The Hong Kong-Macau Dry Bridge and also the third runway have adopted the same method. The challenge is that the contaminated mud will support the sea mud and the future filling. We have to ensure that there is adequate surveying to understand the quality and special characteristics of the contaminated mud, and we have adopted the DCM method, deep cement mixing to strengthen the foundation so that the foundation can be strengthened and support the future seawall and also filling. Can I add one word? Have you used the DCM method before? Is it the first time you use it? The director. The third runway is now have now adopted this approach, and this is the first time we've adopted for public works. Recently, the AA has arranged a visit for LegCo members to the third one-way worksite. Next, Mr. Chioidik, 4 minutes. Just now, Mr. Chang Heng Pan said that there was a detailed discussion. I just want to raise this point. The present town planning system is not adequate. People cannot decide on the content of the planning. The town planning board is appointed by the CE in total. This council has more popular mandate to discuss the planning issues and planning problems. It is about planning. It is about infrastructure, about reclamation, but we have to speak out for the people. If we are to provide housing, what is the mix of public to private housing? Now, in answering my written reply, the administration has said this in respect of the 63 to 37 ratio, in respect of public and private housing. In terms of land use, private land 52%, public land 48%. You have to remember that among the 48%, public housing includes HOS. The administration doesn't tell us how many units of HOS will be built among the 48% of the land for public housing. We pay a very high cost in terms of money and the environment in reclamation, and the land so provided is controlled by the government in terms of land use, and only 48% for public housing, 48% of land size for public housing. And for rental public housing, the number will be smaller. Dr. Kwok has asked a right question, reasonable question. Have you responded to the average waiting time of 4.8 years in considering the ratio of public housing to private housing? The 60 to 40 ratio doesn't ask you to adopt the same for each and every government project. There are other channels of providing private housing, for example, rezoning applications in respect of land in the new territories. In considering the reclamation of Tung East, in deciding on the ratio, why they must follow the territory-wide ratio. It is a special situation because the land is reclaimed completely from the sea. And therefore, the land should be used to provide housing that is really affordable to the people. The Deputy Secretary, Mr. Chan. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chu, for the question. With regard to Tung Chung East, the direction is to embark on the project ASAP, to provide land ASAP, to increase the supply of housing. And only by increasing housing can we deal with the housing problem. As for the ratio between public and private housing is already 63 to 37. In comparison with the long-term housing strategy, this ratio is higher. In terms of public housing, the development horizon of Tung Chung New Town is long, and therefore in terms of supply targets, housing policy, I just want the public to see this very clearly. The so-called 60 to 40, in terms of land use, the size of land use, private housing takes more land. Mr. Chen, please go on. In respect of Mr. Chu's observation, I have to make this point. In terms of distribution, the ratio of land size is about half and half. As for private housing, the average size of the unit is higher than public housing units. And the household per size for private housing is higher than the household size for of those living in public housing. Mr. Michael Tian. I would ask the Deputy Secretary. Now, your whole concept is that it is a place for living and for working. Good for living and good for working. Finally, people can work in the area where they live. They can live near their workplaces. Is it correct? Please continue your question. Well, this is my question, a simple question. To answer Mr. Chen's question briefly, in planning is not simple. Is it the affirmative? The idea is that there is a balance in terms of housing and economic development and job opportunities. I've said that many times before, we have many years of large-scale development. This provides the best opportunity for other sites. You say the site will provide 40,000 jobs, but nobody will go there to do business. Now this is opportunity. You have the airport, the AWE, and the commercial area. You have the four big employers, and they will provide about 100,000 jobs. This is the easiest site for allowing people to live near their workplaces. And yet, public transport is in a mess. People have to wait for 45 minutes. You live in Tung Chung, and you take the Tung Chung line to Qingyi, and then you take the airport express to your workplace in the airport. That's really outrageous. If you don't have a transportation link to link up the four major employers, then I will oppose it at the FC. Now you have the light rail system. This has nothing to do with the THB. You can do it on day one if you think it's too expensive. Well, it is expensive. You have to build bridges. A cheaper way is to make use of the spare time of the airport railway, and you give it to the THB. The THB has its own consideration, but the MTRCL will not take that up. If you make use of the spare time of the airport railway, and then make use of the 10-minute gap to take the circular route, then the MTRCL will lose its customers. They will not pay $100 to the airport railway. They will pay $20 and get off at Tung Chung, and then pay $5 to $6 to the airport. The government will have to subsidize the MTLCL. The administration is to negotiate, but it's all about shareholders' interests. My question is, if you can have this circular route or circular link, and then you provide a subsidy, then I will support your proposal at the Finance Committee. Otherwise, I will oppose that. Do you have a fallback plan? Would it be like the Kowloon East plan? You build your own, and you will not work with the THP. Mr. Chen, Mr. Lam, concerning transport, we are equally concerned. At present, the AA is conducting a study by making use of the spare time of the airport railway to provide a shuttle service. And they are considering the financial and technical and operational feasibilities. On the artificial island of the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, we are studying whether the airport island, the artificial island, and Tung New Town can be linked in a more efficient way. We have adopted a multi-pronged approach in dealing with the traffic and transport arrangement of Northland Town. Give us some time. When the study results are available, we will share it with the Council and also the public. Chairman, my question has not been answered. Mr. Kwong, can they address my question? He has not addressed my question. Your studies at the FC may not be available, or will they only be studies? Mr. Michael Tien, the director has answered your question. If you want to have further follow-ups, please press the bell again. Mr. Kwong, 4 minutes. Chairman, the first thing is that the government should first review its policy on large-scale infrastructural projects. There are scandals after scandals. If you do it for public housing, then people will measure how it can be done better and how big the reclamation should be. Anything about reclamation and infrastructure are full of scandals. The Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge has a quality problem. There is cheating, and the ICAC is investigating it. There is also the suspected collapse of seawall, and there is the shifting of the island, and the dubious sand of dubious quality is used for filling for the airport island. Now, the LegCo has put questions to you, and questions have not been answered. In respect of the problem of reclamation and problem of supervision in previous reclamation projects, how can you make sure that there will not be any quality problem, collapse of seawall, and the like? In respect of the drawings, if we look at the scale of the reclamation, there will be a yacht facility. It will be a Mariners Club, I believe. Will that belong to the yacht club? This is another project, and that is about the private recreation lease. There are many golf clubs, and Mariners clubs are charged with just a nominal rent. The devil is in detail. Now, you say many are waiting for public housing. You have to find a way to provide public housing. But this is a yacht club, and what will you make use of it? You may say that is not for the mooring of pleasure craft, but will you charge just a nominal sum and also a lease which is nominal, which charges a nominal sum, and those who can buy pleasure crafts can enjoy that at a very low cost? Thank you. Concerning the pleasure craft mooring area, this is a planning concept. The actual arrangement is very far away from the completion of that area. Will that be for pleasure craft? You have to answer me. We are happy to listen to different views, and we will consult the public. As for land use planning, we have OU, ship repair, pleasure craft mooring area, and the development of related commercial facilities. It is a commercial development.
We are doing, the HAB is doing a review of pleasure ground contracts. Can I defer, please, to the Director, Lam Sai Hong? Thank you, Chair. We understand members' concerns. We also place a lot of emphasis on the quality of the project. If there is anything unusual, we will report it. We are not going to condone any irregularities. The member mentioned reclamation. As I said just now, the technology will be subject to ground investigation. We must know the ground situation of the seabed, and then we are going to adopt a particular methodology. This is the non-dredge method. We have talked to overseas experts. They confirm that this is feasible. During the works period, we are going to monitor the project closely to ensure quality. We are confident that the reclamation works can comply with standards. Next, Dr. Fernando Chung, 4 minutes. This is quite a big-scale reclamation project measuring 130 hectares or 7 Victoria Parks. It's quite a big scale. We hope it will be used to relieve the public's burden in the aspect of housing. So we are concerned about the public-private ratio. Recently, the ratio stands at about 6:4, as the administration said. However, I need to tell the public more about this 60% PRH. It is not just PRH, actually. It is public housing, including public housing for sale. Now, I'd like to know the ratio between public housing for sale and for renting within that 60%. The CE designate says that she will build more public housing for sale. In fact, the 60% can all be for sale, and it is not going to help the general public. Your latest paper says that during the detailed design stage, you will let us know which type of housing will be built. I find this rather strange. The queue for PRH is well known to all. It is getting longer. And today we have this big-scale reclamation project, and yet you can't tell us how much land will be used for relieving the housing difficulty of grassroots residents. Can you come clean here? You say it's public housing, but if it's for sale, it's not going to help the average member of the public. Chairman, can you ask them to answer? Yes? Thank you, Chairman. First, we are talking about the Tung Chung East Reclamation Project. We hope we will be able to reclaim the land with funding support as soon as possible. Then we can build the infrastructure, and then the land can be used to meet urgent needs in society. As for the distribution of housing, we have already taken on board the 6:4 ratio of the LTHS. The public housing ratio is 63%. This is actually a little higher than the LTHS ratio. We hope that in the new extension area, there will be a balanced community. Well, he is burning my time. He is repeating. I'm asking him the ratio between public housing for sale and for rental. Allow the DS to answer, please. How much land will be used for PRH and HOS. The practice has always been for the housing authority to decide according to prevailing needs. And it is up to the HA to decide. There is no decision now. Chairman, you talk about prevailing needs. As of now, do we need more PRH or HOS? Do you have a stance? Chairman, on Tung East extension planning, over 60% will be public housing. This is our planning direction. Is that all you can say? You say it's public housing, but it can be 100% for sale. How are you going to help the grassroots? This is a big-scale reclamation project. It's going to fetch a high price. How many grassroots residents are you going to help? Time is up. Can the official respond? As we said, planning-wise, there will be rental housing and also public housing for sale. But the specific ratio would have to be decided by the housing authority at the time. I think you are ducking the issue. You have to come clean, in fact, at this stage. Dr. Chung, you can follow up later. Next one, Mr. Leung Chi-Chang, first round, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Personally, I think that we should use reclamation to increase land supply and housing supply. We should not lose sight of the marine ecology, of course. We have talked about Tung East for a long time. There were 3 rounds of public consultation and there were many studies proving that it is feasible. So I think it's worth our support. But I need to seek more information. In this project, you are going to strengthen the weak seabed and you're going to adopt the deep cement mixing method. Compared to the dredging method, first you dredge the sludge and then you put in the fill. Now, is this going to be a safer method than that one? Because some members said that they would be worried that there might be shifting of the reclaimed land. Is this a method that we have always used in Hong Kong? Secondly, the fill will come from Chung. There will be a lot of traffic generated. I don't know whether you are going to use the sea route. Even so, you still need land transport to support it. So is it going to affect the people's livelihood? Who will take the question? Mr. Lam. Thank you, Chairman and members. We use a non-dredge method to reclaim land. This was used for the artificial island at Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. The same is applied for P3RS. We used to have the dredging method. Director, the artificial island shifted. So I'm asking you whether this is going to be repeated. I understand members' concerns. If we use the non-dredge method, we must know the depth of the sludge layer and the characteristics. So in this project, we have done some ground investigation to get to know the layer of sludge and also the ground situation below the sludge level. And this is called the deep cement mixing method. some concrete will be injected into the weak sea mud, and through a chemical method, the sea mud would be strengthened so that it can support the seawall and the future reclamation. This is a very popular method in Japan, South Korea, and even Changi Airport in Singapore was built by this method. This is the first one, first capital works project. We have consulted overseas experts who have endorsed this method. As for the transportation of fill, basically we'll use the sea route. It will be moved from Cheung or Tuen Mun to this area. No land traffic will be generated, and the fill will be poured into the sea right away. There will be no land transport necessary. Ms. N. Chang, first round, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I heard Mr. Fernando Chung say just now that public housing should not be built for sale, say, for example, for sale to sitting tenants of PRH. I'd like to tell Mr. Fernando Chung that, in fact, PRH for sale is very popular with the public, and they view this as a preparation for old age. Whether it is good to sell more PRH, well, I think there is the demand in the market. The grassroots do not have to pay a lot to own their own home. If they can afford it, we certainly encourage them to do so. I have also heard some members say that at Tung, not too much land reclaimed should be used for commercial or private housing development. The administration must give this very careful consideration. Just look at Tin Shui Wai. We built public housing after public housing, and then there was not enough commercial activities, and members of the public had to travel to the urban area for work. The journeys are very costly in terms of time and money. Therefore, we must have a good balance between public housing, private housing, and commercial activities. My biggest concern, Chairman, is that in any new town, the administration must provide these few things before you move people in. First, traffic and transport. You must have diversified transport. Secondly, there must be a public market. This is so important. Don't only have link markets or high-end malls, because the public will not have a choice. And last but not least, homes for the elderly and schools. You must build all these before you move in population. Chairman, can I please have a consolidated reply to these points? Co-officials, can I ask Mr. Lam of CEDD to talk about transport, and then we can talk about community facilities. Mr. Lam. Thank you, Chairman. We said just now that we place a lot of emphasis on transport. In our plan, we are going to provide a certain commercial complement so as to provide jobs. And as for transport, we are doing a few things. One, the railway. And we also are going to provide land-based transport. At the CEDD, we have set up a task force, which is the Lantau Sustainable Development Office. We hope that that office can devote itself to liaise with the Development Bureau and other units to plan for transport. So there will be enough transport facilities to complement the development of this new town.
Yes, Chairman, a quick point on the market. As for public markets, in Chung, in Yatung and Futung Estate, there are public markets. As for Area 56 and Area 39, there are public housing projects which will have a wet market for the public. In 2017-18, they will be completed. In Tung Chung East Extension, in the reclamation area, we are now working with the FEHD and Food and Health Bureau to find a substantial market for the public. Mr. Chen Pan seems not to be here. Dr. K.K. Kwok, your second round, 3 minutes. Chairman, my question is very clear. In 2012, when there was the first planning study, the housing problem was not so outrageous as it is now. The waiting time at that time was not so long, and property prices were not so mad. At present, property is out of reach of the ordinary people. The 2012 study is not suitable for 2017 or 2020. The administration should redo the planning again. What is standing in your way? Together with Sunny Bay, I have yet to talk about Sunny Bay. There will be a lot of floor space, commercial floor space. People cannot live in in Sunny Bay. The government is just moving the goalposts. When it wants money to build the third runway, to build the artificial island, they say they are doing it for future job opportunities. There is not enough land for housing. They say people have to work nearby. The government is hypocritical. It's hypocritic. Now the airport, the MTRCL charges very high fares, and you say you're going to provide jobs, but they have no place to live. You say there are jobs available next door, but there is no home for them. They don't want to work in the urban area, but the job opportunities do not match. There is mismatching. Will the administration review its planning, whether there is such a big need for luxury flats and commercial floor space? Why can't the government respond to people's call to provide more public housing? What is impeding you to do that? Mr. Chen, I thank Dr. Kwok for the question. As for Dr. Kwok's question, we've already explained this. As for the Tung Chung East Extension, there is a planning process. The present proposals have reflected the planning process. Mr. Kwok has assumed that commercial land use and residential land use add up to zero. It's a zero-sum game. Now we've planned commercial development for Tung Chung, which is along the North Lantau highway. And in fact, the land is not suitable for housing. And the area taken up is not very big in terms of the whole reclamation. As for housing, we have complied with the 60-40 ratio of the long-term housing strategy. If there is any adjustment in housing policy, then land use can be adjusted accordingly. There is flexibility. As for the completion of Tung Chung Eastern Extension, it will be about 2030. There is a long way to go, and we can make suitable adjustment if necessary. The most important thing is to go ahead with reclamation. Mr. Chang Hangpan, your second round, 3 minutes. The administration claims that there will be 10,000 parking spaces. It is not attractive to provide car parking spaces because there is no land exemption or plot ratio exemption, to be precise. As for the economic development of North Lantau, together with people moving into Tung, and there will not be enough car parking spaces. And you also need more car parking spaces if you are going to provide park and ride arrangement. I hope you can review your provision of car parks. The second question is on light rail system. We have been asking for a light rail system to link the airport island and Tung Chung New Town, but it seems that you have not said a word on this. I hope you will consider this. The third is on non-dredging and the adding of cement. Is there any example of this? Have you conducted any study before so that we have confidence in this method? We've seen the shifting of the artificial island. We don't want to see that repeated again. You say the third runway will adopt the same approach, but we have not seen the construction of the third runway yet. So you need to wait for the completion of the third runway, or have you done any study somewhere else? Mr. Lam. Concerning the non-dredge method for land reclamation, or for reclamation. In Europe and in other parts of Asia, the method has been used successfully, say in Japan, in Haneda Airport and Chubu Airport in Nagoya, and also in South Korea and Changi, Singapore. The method was used. With reference to these experience overseas, together with our site investigation, we have an understanding of the geology of Tung Chung, and we will adopt the DCM method. We are confident that the reclamation method is suitable and will meet international standards. Will you give a quick answer on car parking spaces and light rail system? Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just a quick point. On car parking spaces, we follow the recommendation of the planning study and also the HKPSG. The THB at the transport panel said that the transport department would conduct a study on the demand and supply of parking spaces, and one cannot rule out that the planning standard can be adjusted. And if there is any adjustment to the planning standard, then we will consider adjusting the ratio of car park in Tung Chung New Town. What about the light rail system? Just now, the director, in explaining the traffic arrangement of the whole of Tung Chung, including the airport and Hong Kong-Macau Chuai Bridge artificial island. We will monitor the situation very closely. If need be, we will work with the TB and the TD and THB. If need be, the member can follow up next time. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, 4 minutes, first round. Chairman, I want to confirm this. Now, you thought that Tung Chung would accommodate a lot of people, but you've stopped that. Now you say we are filibustering. Now why you suspended your project in Tung Chung? Is there anything to fill us up with that piece of history? Originally, you plan to accommodate about 200,000 people, but you have not achieved that. Can any official answer this? Don't say we're filibustering. You owed us more than 100,000 living units. If you have honor your promise, then people can live in Tung, and they don't need to live in subdivided units. Anybody can anyone reply to that? As far as my understanding, in the 1990s, planning began on Tung, and in the original plan, there was a Northland Town, New Town concept. The planning parameters changed quite a lot, taking into account the ecological system in Tai Ho, which is valuable, and also the airport operation. Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. I want to point this out. That is related to the 9 or 10 tricks of Michael Tsuen. You stop construction of HOS. You stop building PSPS. You cut the construction of public housing. That was around the year 2000, 2001 when I wasn't a LegCo member. And as a result, we end up in this mess. It is not. You say this is not the result of the 9 tricks of Michael Tsuen. You want to preserve the environment. You don't move people into Tung. Can you confirm that? That is your policy. Mr. Chen, would you let Mr. Chen finish? Mr. Chen, please. Thank you, Mr. Leung, for the question. Planning is always a process which is changing with the times. Hong Kong has changed a lot in the past years, whether it's the demand for housing or the demand for land. As for the Tung East extension, we want to turn Tung into a new town with a substantial scale that can be better facilities. And we also make use of the Tung East extension area to provide more reclaimed land to meet our housing demand. Chairman, I don't need his answer, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chen, that's nonsense. I can confirm now that you have delayed the development of Tung. The number of units, housing units lost is plenty. Originally, there should be a population of 200,000, and now there are only 80,000, and therefore you don't provide the infrastructure, and therefore the 80,000 people suffer. Now you say that you change it because of change of time. That is speculation. At that time, nobody wanted to buy flats. Therefore, you stop construction, and now people are asking for flats, and then you build more to make a huge profit. That's exploitation. If it is not this term of the government, it was the previous term of the government that caused people homeless. Mr. Chen, any response to that? Any response to that? No. Next, Mr. Chen Ying, 4 minutes, first round. In answering Mr. Chen Heng's question on the non-dredge method, other places have made use of that. Now we are going to put up residential buildings on top. So that is the settlement requirement. Now time is rather short until the putting up of residential buildings. Will there be any problem with the non-dredge method in terms of settlement? Disneyland has adopted a rather costly method to reduce the problem of settlement. Has the administration considered the problem of settlement? Otherwise, the problem in Chung in respect of certain HOS will reoccur. And the development will also lead to the resumption of some GIC sites and will be relocated to Area 58. What are the items to be relocated or reprovisioned? And how can the administration make sure that there will be no suspension of services arising from the resumption of GIC sites.
We, of course, would monitor settlement or subsidence very carefully because it will affect the putting of buildings on the reclaimed land. Generally speaking, when we use the non-dredge method, we are going to insert vertical drainage pipes so that water from the mud can be drained away at an early stage so that the mud can be consolidated. So there will be less remaining subsidence. At Tung Chung East, we are going to adopt this method. In future, when buildings are put up, there will be complementary design in order to tackle any residual subsidence. In other non-dredge reclamation projects, we also adopt the same method in order to reduce residual subsidence or settlement. As for Area 58, I'd like to defer to the Planning Department, please. Yes, please. Ms. Tam. Thank you, Chairman. There will be some community facilities that will be affected by this extension project. The departments are talking to the NGOs, hoping to find alternative venues for them so they can continue to provide social service. Thank you. Chairman, can I please ask what kind of GIC services are we talking about, and have you confirmed where they will move to? Ms. Tam, we are going to affect a small number of temporary community facilities near Ma On Shan. They are provided by NGOs. We can move them to existing land in Chung, so they can be reprovisioned. Mr. Yu Si-wing, first round, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. At present, because of transport and housing, the Hong Kong airport is below establishment. There will be reclamation at Chung, and there will be 40,000 more units. I think the administration can consider allowing enterprises at the airport to use some land that is up for auctioning. You can say that the land should only be used for quarters. Some airlines thought that they might not have land, so at Kai Tak they tendered for land at really exorbitant prices, and it was as if they were scrambling for land. But in Tung Chung, if you can designate the land use as quarters or hostels, and if you restrict it only to units within the airport's operation, including the CAD airlines and other people, then you can benefit the economy and also the development of our aviation industry. Have you looked into that? Mr. Chan, have you considered that? Thank you, Chair. And Mr. Yu? I believe what Mr. Yu said is about a policy for a particular industry. We don't have that policy now, and that is to designate land for quarters for a particular industry. But if the industry has that need and if there is a policy, then we can do our part to provide the land. But in Tung Chung now, we hope to provide land as soon as possible for developing into housing and economic uses. Chairman, yes, Mr. Yu. I hope the administration will give this some comprehensive consideration. What I said is a fact, isn't it? If you don't provide the land for this use, there will be a transport problem. Just imagine there will be many more workers going to the airport, and there may be Asia World Expo 2, and there may be other tourist destinations as well. And in future, there will be a big transport problem for Lantau. I hope you won't only look at housing, but the overall economy. I hope the director can look into this. Secondly, the mooring shoreline for pleasure boats. As you know, Zhuhai and Nansha are being developed, and they in fact want to get pleasure boats to moor at their places. If we don't have it, the business will shrink for Hong Kong, and pleasure boats will moor at places outside Hong Kong, and that may affect Hong Kong's position as an international city. I don't know whether you have plans to provide for such apart from Tung Chung. If not, you must keep it at Tung Chung. Please do not cancel it for any reason. What is your consideration? Please be as brief as possible. Thank you, Chair. We have heard Mr. Yu. We will relate it to the relevant bureau for consideration. From what we know, we have one mooring space earmarked for pleasure boats, and that is here in Tung Chung East. Our purpose is to develop a promenade with different activities so that Tung Chung East will become a dynamic community. Mr. Edward Yu, first round, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about the estimated cost. 3RS will use the new method for reclamation. According to their website, they are going to get 156 hectares of land from reclamation, and the cost at MOD is 56.2 billion, or $184.6 per square foot. This is already a very high price. And according to your paper, since you are going to do reclamation only, and you are going to get 130 hectares, and this is to cost 20.568.9 million, or $1,582 per square foot, much more than that for 3RS. I'd like to know how you came up with this estimate. I need detailed information. If you don't have it here, supply it after the meeting. You may say there is a difference in time, but you have already got an adjustment mechanism in your estimate, and you are putting in 40%, which is a high, very high adjustment level, because that will give you $5.8 billion. Even apart from price adjustment, it's still very expensive. It will still cost you $11.65 billion, or $900 per square foot. Why is it so expensive? The Director, Mr. Lam. Thank you, Chairman. When we made the cost estimate, we took reference from the 3RS cost estimate. But the two projects are different. As you can see, they are going to get 165 hectares, but for us, 130 hectares. In fact, they are only about 1/5 of the area we are reclaiming. And there are another 2 points. Number one, the length of the seawall and how it relates to the reclamation. The ratio between the two is quite big, and it's more expensive to build a seawall. Before we build the seawall, first we need to consolidate the foundation. If we only look at the unit price, it may be bigger than that for 3RS. And also, we are closer to residential areas, not like the 3RS. Well, that I can understand. But please, after the meeting, give me the breakdown. I can ask another question. You have to wait till the next time. No, I have. This is my first round. Okay. You still have time. Please continue. Last month, we went on a site visit to 3RS together with Lechco, and they claim that all the dredging machines had been taken over by 3RS. So does it mean that it will make your project more expensive? Director. Well, the supply of machinery has been factored into our consideration. Okay. Mr. Andrew Wen, first round. Chairman. Since the director has given such a curt answer, I can ask the question again. We understand that this is common talk within the industry, that the dredging machines fall short of demand. Can you be more specific? How many such machines are there in Hong Kong, and is that statement correct? In other words, there may be insufficient supply of machinery. Director. Thank you, Chair. Please speak into the microphone. When we do detailed design and we did an assessment at 3RS, there are many such deep cement mixing barges. We have been to South Korea to see whether they have machines. After doing our assessment, we confirmed that there are still machines for deep cement mixing in the market. But there will be different constraints in each project. Say here, we are constrained by the height of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Chairman, he is not answering me. I'm asking how many such machines are being used in Hong Kong. I understand there are some at 3RS. How many are going to be used by this project? It's a very simple addition and subtraction sum. I don't have the exact number used by 3RS at hand. I can supply it after the meeting. We are very concerned about this. And next, I'd like to have figures for the mooring spot. I have two concerns here. First, would there be such a demand? I know that in Hong Kong we have a lack of mooring space for pleasure boats. Say how many people are lining up for Causeway Bay, and if they are happy to move their pleasure boat to Chung. I don't own a pleasure boat, but it doesn't make sense to me because people might not want to move their pleasure boat here. And also, what is the local demand at Chung? Who can take the question? Thank you, Mr. Wen, for your question. let me say something about the mooring spot for pleasure boats. At Tung East, the plan is that the mooring spot is much smaller than the original plan. At the beginning, it is said that there would be 350 berths, but now we'll only provide 95.
We've already taken into account the views we've heard during the consultation. As for the overall growth in pressure crafts and the demand for mooring space, apart from the one in Tung East, which is now being planned, we have no other facilities being planned in public works. As for the overall planning of the area, there is also commercial use nearby, and through this development, the area will become a more lively community, and this will also help to boost economic activities in the area. Whether other water sports can be included, such as dragon boat, sailing, and other water sports activities, we will consider these possibilities. And there will be a public consultation on the actual land use of the mooring area. Next, Ms. Michael Tien, your second round, 3 minutes. Chairman, I want to talk to the citizens in front of the TV sets. The planning development in the past years has been the lack of traffic and transport facilities. After population moved in, then they hurriedly provide the bus routes and build the railways, and everything is a mess. 80,000 people are living in Tung. Many people have told me that it is difficult to go to work in the airport. There aren't enough buses. It is congested. Roads are congested. They take the railway to Chengyi and then go back to the airport. By 2030, total population will be about 200,000. The 4 major employers will provide 300,000 jobs. It will be a serious problem. The present-day problem of Tung is not a problem of the Development Bureau. It is a problem of the THP. 80,000 people, maybe some tens of thousands of people are going to work in the airport. There is no urgency. People can change their buses or railways. Now, if you are going to build the new town, then you have to solve the problem. When you move people in, you have to consider what you will provide for them. Now the administration says that the official says that he is monitoring the situation. If need be, he will do this and do that. You don't understand present-day problems. This is not the Development Bureau's problem. That is the THP's problem. If there are 300,000 jobs and there is a population of 200,000, that will be your problem. My main concern is a railway. There should be a rail link. Otherwise, your whole plan is a failure. It's just cheating. When you go before the FC, if there is no clear explanation on the railway link, if you just say you build roads or things like that, I will oppose that. And I ask many members to think twice before supporting your proposal. There are about 20 seconds left. Will you be a more definite answer on the railway? The Director. Mr. Lam, as I've said, my question is very simple, yes or no. We are going to set up a sustainable land development office, and through this dedicated office there will be a traffic study, and we will coordinate the arrangement for transport. Before the FC meeting, will you have a definite answer? Mr. Lam, can you be more specific in answering Mr. Tian's question? That's the only question. You're just repeating other things. I've already said that there are several traffic studies going on, and we will follow up those studies. I don't think you need my vote then. Good. Next, Mr. Chu Haidik, your second round, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I encourage Mr. Tian to vote against this, and also to impose a conditional support. You can resort to ROP 21 to impose a burden on the administration. It's a pity that Ms. Chang is not here. The so-called balanced development in Tung Chung East and no replication of Tin Shui Wai. I think she should have looked broader. That is Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West in the extension. If you look at Tung Chung West, 19.31 hectares of residential land, all RC for private housing. Tung Chung West is entirely for private housing. You want to show your so-called balance, then you can quote this as an example. But if you look at the whole picture, there may be no balance. Can you tell us just that you want balance only in Tung Chung East and not for Tung Chung West? Dr. Fernando Chung has asked about the ratio of HOS, and you say you will discuss it later. The problem is this. Now you say this is reclamation. This is just like baking a cake. You don't tell us how the cake should be cut and who can enjoy the cake. And you just talk about baking a cake. That's just not right. This meeting is here to decide on who is going to cut the cake, who is going to have a share of the cake before we approve the funding. If your balance is just something like a moving goalpost, then the real balance is that all housing development should be public housing. 30 to 40% are for sale. 60% of the residential land should be for public housing, PRH, public rental housing. That's my specific proposal, and I need an answer from you. Yes, the Deputy Secretary. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chu, for the question on Tung Chung West. Is a response to a public call in planning the development Tung Chung. In public consultation and in this council, there is a strong demand that the Tung Chung West, the Tung Chung Valley, should be for conservation. They are for private housing. Are they not for private housing only? Please let the DS answer your question. I just want to ask you whether this is for private housing. Please be patient. Let him answer the question. As for the planning of the valley of Tung Chung West, is to conserve the original valley, river valley. But we have subsidized housing, a small amount of public housing and subsidized housing, but the ratio is just 1,800 in Tung Chung Valley, 1,800 units in Tung Chung Valley, and the majority of the development capacity is in Tung Chung East reclamation. This is the outcome of planning. Mr. Chu, no, he has not answered the Tung Valley OEZP whether it's entirely for private housing. Mr. Chu, I've already dealt with the time flexibly. I let him answer a question. Just be patient and let him answer your question. If you just interrupt, then it will lengthen the time. Yes, the DS, please. Chairman, my apologies. I refer to Tung Valley. If we follow the proposed development OEZP for Tung West, whole of Tung West, the total number of residential units 8,600 units, of which 5,200 public subsidized housing and 3,400 private housing. 60-40%. Dr. Fernando Chung, 2 minutes, and then the remaining time is only enough for Mr. Chung's question. Chairman, my question is for Tung Chung East reclamation. The 100 odd hectares of land will be provided. Now, of the 60-odd% of public housing, how many units for rental housing and how many units for sale? The ratio, please. The DS. Any number for that? At present, I don't have the numbers in hand. According to previous practice, with regard to large-scale development projects, as for the actual ratio, how many units for sale, how many units for rental housing, it is up to the housing authority to decide. This is to give flexibility and to the HA to respond according to demand. As for Tung Chung East, there will be 63% of the units for public housing. Let me stress that public housing is to meet the demand of the citizens for public housing. And the whole community has a demand for public housing and private housing. Of course, there is. The problem is serious speculation. Even if there are more private housing units, there will be speculation. There is a lot of money coming from the north to speculate. Despite your tough measures, property prices continue to shoot up. We use public funds to change the natural environment, and you damage the environment with the view to achieve greater good, greater public good. But where is that greater public good? You pay a heavy cost, you bake a cake, but who is to eat the cake? You let the rich to eat the cake. You have the Mariners Club, and then there will be a lot of luxury flats. You say 60% are for public housing. We just want to know the percentage of public rental housing. We don't want to bind the hands of the HA, but you should at least have a rough number. I don't think you have no idea in your head. How many are waiting for public rental housing? How many have housing problems? You are not unaware of that. We pay a heavy price for that. How many grassroots households who are waiting for public housing can be accommodated? You can't give us a number. How can we support this? Chairman. Yes, please go on. Concerning public housing, in Tung Chung East, the specific public housing projects have yet to be obtained from the HA. Under the LTHS, 60% of the 60% will be for public housing, and there will be 280,000 units in 5 years. We have the reason to believe that among the 280,000, 200,000 will be for public rental housing. The housing authority will make reference to the LTHS in deciding the mix. Time is up. Next is the next meeting, 7th of June, 8:30 a.m. Meeting now adjourned. Thank you.